While heading to a family reunion, my husband suddenly turned pale and whispered, "Turn the car around right now." I was shocked. "Why?" he pleaded. "Just turn around." I trusted him, and it saved us. When I later learned the reason, I could never see my parents the same way again. The original plan was simple: leave early, pack snacks and coffee, drive for a few hours, cross into Canada, see some family, and pretend to like potato salad. Everything was set to be normal, almost boring, which was exactly what I wanted. I was at the wheel, as usual. I prefer driving because my husband tends to slam on the brakes at the last second, and motion sickness is something I'm prone to. My three kids, ages 5, 7, and 10, were half awake in the back seat, semi-watching a cartoon and semi-arguing over the imaginary line dividing the cushions. They were a small, chaotic trio in matching neck pillows. Everything was fine. Not perfect, not terrible, just fine. Until he spoke those words. "Turn around now." I didn't react immediately. I just smirked or laughed, one of those reflexive gestures you make when you think someone is joking, but the joke isn't actually funny. "Why?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just stared straight ahead and repeated, "Please just turn around." That's when I knew he was serious. My husband is not a panicky person. His usual state is calm, and sometimes tired. I've seen him handle a kitchen fire with less tension than this. So I took the next exit, the last one before the border. It curved gently, as if the road itself were offering a second chance. The moment we were off the highway, his body relaxed, though not completely. It was just enough to show he had been tense. "Okay," I said. "Now can you tell me what's going on?" He shook his head. "Just drive," he said. "Drive where?" I asked. "I don't know," he replied. "Anywhere but there." The kids were starting to notice. "Are we going the wrong way?" my middle one asked. "We forgot something," I said automatically. "What?" the youngest piped up. "I'll tell you later," I said. My husband didn't say another word for a long time. We drove in silence for about 20 minutes, maybe more. Just miles of trees and a feeling of guilt pressing on my neck. Then he said, "Take the next turnoff." It led to a dead end, a narrow, signless access road with no apparent purpose. It was one of those places you only find when you're lost or about to be. I pulled over. He unbuckled his seatbelt. "Stay here." He got out and walked to the back of the car. I couldn't see what he was doing, so I just waited, my hands sweating and my heart doing a strange, rapid beat. After a minute, the trunk closed, and he came back to my window. "Can you come out?" he asked. "Why?" I said. "I need you to see it," he replied. He didn't sound angry or scared, just tired and incredibly sure. I got out and walked to the back of the car. He opened the trunk, said nothing, and just pointed. I looked, and in that moment, I forgot how to breathe. I wasn't scared yet. Fear hadn't arrived. What I felt was something slower and heavier, like my whole life was collapsing beneath me. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. I just knew we had been one wrong choice away from losing everything. The ironic thing is that I always thought I was the responsible one in the family. Not just in the sense of paying taxes and wearing sunscreen, though I did that too. I saw myself as the stable one, the one who didn't lie, explode, or vanish. I was the one who tried, the one who helped when I could and set boundaries when I couldn't. But looking back now, I see that being the responsible one was like being the designated driver at a demolition derby. My family didn't want my help. They wanted cover, and I had been providing it for years. It started when I was a child. My parents were the kind of people who believed that living well was all about image, not money. If you looked successful, if you appeared generous, if your Christmas lights were perfectly straight, and your fridge had 5 different kinds of mustard, then you were doing okay. It didn't matter if the credit cards were maxed out or if the gas got shut off that one winter. The story was that we were doing okay. You had to stick to the script or get written out. Some years were tough. I remember having cereal for dinner and one parent or the other suddenly working late, which I later realized meant they couldn't afford to be home. But there were also years when they were flush with cash. New car, new TV, new patio furniture no one ever used. The money came and went like the weather, but the spending never stopped. Once, when I was 8, I asked my dad why we didn't save more when things were good. He said, "You don't need to save if you know how to hustle." My sister inherited all of this: the hustle, the charm, the magnetic ability to light up a room while quietly dimming your self-respect. She was the favorite. It was no secret, just a truth. They liked her more. They got her. She was like them, and I wasn't. They called me boring, uptight, and too serious, sometimes even to my face. My mom once told me at Thanksgiving dinner that my problem was I confused discipline with personality. And the crazy part is, I believed them. When you grow up in that kind of home, you start to think the only way to earn love is by being useful, clean, and reasonable. So that's what I did. I became the responsible one. They would call me to help with insurance claims or school applications, or when my sister lost another job and needed help bridging the gap. I gave what I could, not too much, just enough to keep things from falling apart and to avoid being the bad guy. Even when they made it hurt, framing every no as selfishness, I still gave because they were my parents, and it seemed easier than the alternative. Then the request changed. This was about 4 months before the trip. My sister's son, my nephew, was struggling in school. They said he was bullied, anxious, and withdrawn. A therapist had recommended a smaller environment, and they found a private school, exclusive, expensive, and in their words, life-changing. They obviously couldn't afford it, but they'd managed to get conditional acceptance if they could put down a deposit. They just needed a little bit of help to lock it in and promise to pay me back. My stomach sank the moment they said the words. It wasn't that I didn't care. I did. That was the worst part. I liked the kid and wanted good things for him, but I knew this pattern. I knew how it started and how it ended. So I said no. I said it gently, as if speaking to someone holding a glass knife. "I can't pay for private school," I explained. "I have 3 kids of my own, and we don't do private school. I'm sorry." They didn't yell. They just went quiet and cold. My mom said, "Of course, I forgot. You have rules." After that, we didn't speak for a while until the reunion came up. Suddenly, everything was cheerful again. They were thrilled we were coming. They had figured things out with the school, the reunion, and the trip. Everything was working out. I didn't ask how. I told myself it wasn't my business. They asked if we'd be willing to take an extra bag since their car was too full and we had an SUV. "Sure," I said. "Just let me know." A few days before the trip, as we were packing, my dad handed me the red duffel bag. "It won't fit in ours," he said, "just this one." I took it without thinking, just tossing it in with our luggage, kids' backpacks, and a cooler of juice boxes. I didn't even unzip it. I didn't wonder why they were so relaxed or why the people who couldn't afford groceries and had guilt-tripped me for not helping were suddenly fine. They smiled and waved as we backed out of the driveway, looking completely carefree. For a second I thought, weird, they seem happy for once. I didn't think much of it then. It was just another bag, another trip, and another family mess I didn't want to get involved in. Maybe I should have asked more questions. Maybe I was too naive. He didn't sound angry or scared, just tired and very, very sure. "I need you to see it," he said. I got out. He led me to the back of the car and opened the trunk. Without a word, he unzipped the red duffel bag and folded back a sweatshirt. And that's when everything stopped. Inside, tucked between clothes in what looked like a child's toiletry bag, were plastic-sealed packets. Not one, but several, and not very well hidden. They were just there, under layers that wouldn't have fooled a professional for more than 5 seconds. I stared, not fully understanding, then fully understanding all at once. It wasn't medicine or vitamins. It was something that meant handcuffs, lawyers, and headlines. I couldn't speak. Every muscle in my chest tightened, and it felt like I was drowning in slow motion. He didn't say, "Look what they did." He didn't say, "This is what I thought." He just zipped the bag shut and let the silence complete the sentence. I took a step back. The gravel crunched under my shoes, sounding distant, disconnected from reality. "They put that in our car," I finally said, my voice thin. They put that in our car, he nodded. With the kids, I added. Another nod. For some reason, I looked up at the sky. It was still blue, still a beautiful day, and I hated that. It felt wrong, like the sky hadn't gotten the memo. How did you know? I asked. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the closed trunk as if it might still be open. When they gave us the bag, he said eventually, something about their eyes, the way they smiled, like it was already done, like they were sure it would work. He shrugged and shook his head as if to dislodge the memory. I couldn't stop thinking about it the whole drive. Then right before the border, it hit me. He looked at me. I didn't know, but I knew. And that was worse somehow, that someone else had seen what I had trained myself not to see. I slowly walked back to the driver's seat, got in, and closed the door. I sat there for a minute, letting the heat from the windshield hit me as my hand shook. Then I started the car and drove. The kids were quiet this time, engrossed in their cartoon. They had forgotten about Canada, Auntie Karen, the cousins, and the little toy bags I'd secretly packed. We drove for a while, on highways and side roads, with no destination. My phone started buzzing. My mom, then my dad, then again. I didn't answer. He didn't either. We didn't have to. We already knew what they'd say. Where are you? What happened? Are you okay? Where's the bag? We just kept driving, the screen lighting up every few minutes like a tiny alarm. Eventually, we turned toward their house. It was almost automatic, as if we were on rails. We didn't talk about it, we both just knew what we had to do. I pulled into their driveway and parked. The porch light was still on from the night before, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. He got out first and walked around to the trunk. I followed. We didn't say a word. I reached for the mat, found the key, still in the same place, taped to the back of a fake rock my dad had bought from a catalog that also sold deer whistles and solar-powered frogs. He opened the front door, and we walked inside. The air smelled like old coffee and carpet cleaner. We placed the red duffel bag just inside the hallway. We didn't open it or adjust it, just set it down like a silent bomb that didn't need to detonate to ruin everything. He turned the knob and locked the door behind us. We got back in the car, still without speaking. I think we both felt that talking would contaminate the moment. Later that day, after we were home and the kids were asleep, I finally answered the phone. It was my mother. Her voice was bright and fake, as if she were calling about muffins. "Oh, honey," she said, "we were so worried. You just disappeared." I didn't say anything. "Is everything okay?" Still nothing. "Where's the bag?" I let that question hang in the air for a moment, then I said, "We dropped it off at your house." There was a pause. "If it was that important," I added, "maybe you should have taken it yourselves." Her voice didn't change, but I heard it. The catch, that flicker of recognition that told me she knew exactly what I meant and that I knew exactly what she had done. She didn't say anything, neither did I. Then I said, "We're not doing this. Don't call again." And I hung up. That was it. No screaming, no final speech, just a line drawn and a door shut. And that should have been the end, but it wasn't, not yet. They showed up on a Wednesday. No warning, no text, just the doorbell ringing like they were dropping off muffins instead of guilt. I knew it was them before I even checked. There's a kind of pressure that comes through a front door, like a bad smell or static in the air, especially when it's from people who think they've done nothing wrong. I opened the door just enough to step outside and shut it firmly behind me. My parents were standing there as if they hadn't just tried to blow up my life with a duffel bag and a smile. My mom gave me a tight, practiced grin, the kind that's supposed to look warm but doesn't reach the eyes. "We wanted to check in," she said, as if we were in a group chat and I'd missed a brunch invite. My dad added, "We thought maybe we could clear the air." I said nothing, just crossed my arms and waited. My mom hesitated, then said, "We didn't know how much you understood." There it was, the tell. They knew. I knew. They just didn't know how much I'd allowed myself to believe. I tilted my head. "You mean the bag?" Neither of them answered, which was answer enough. "You put it in our trunk," I said, "with your grandchildren in the back seat." My mom swallowed. We didn't think it would be a big deal. It wasn't going to be anything, my dad said, trying to keep his voice even. Just something to help with the debt, that's all. We were desperate, my mom added. You wouldn't help. There it was again. The fallback excuse, the one-size-fits-all defense. You wouldn't help. As if this was just a response to my lack of generosity, as if their betrayal was a natural consequence of my boundaries. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. You didn't just betray me, I said. You risked our lives. You risked your daughter, your son-in-law, your grandchilds. My dad shifted his weight. My mom blinked as if trying to summon tears that wouldn't come. We're done, I said. Don't call, don't come here. You don't get to see the kids. This is over. She opened her mouth. I could already hear the classic, "You're being dramatic," or "Maybe you'll cool off" forming. Instead, she just said, "You'll come around. You always do." I turned, walked back inside, and locked the door behind me. For the first time in a long time, I didn't wonder if she was right. 3 days later, I showed up at the school to pick up the kids. They weren't there. My stomach dropped so fast I couldn't speak. I just looked at the teacher as if she had just told me my house was on fire. "Oh, they were already picked up," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Your parents said you'd ask them to." I don't remember driving. I remember being in the car and the sound of the engine, but nothing in between. They were at my parents' house. Of course they were. Inside, it looked like a birthday party had exploded. Toys, candy, balloons, a whole Lego set that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The kids were glowing, high on sugar, clutching new things, and laughing as if this were Disneyland. My parents were acting as if everything was fine. My mom was slicing cake. My dad was on the floor building something that beeped. It was surreal, like walking into a parallel universe where they were the kind of grandparents who cared more about giving than taking. Only they weren't. This wasn't love. It was strategy, emotional bribery, weaponized affection. They'd never spoiled the kids like this before, but suddenly, after we cut them off, Santa Claus with a debit card showed up. I stood there for a second, trying to remember what it felt like to give someone the benefit of the doubt. I couldn't. "We're leaving," I said. The kids whined. "But why? Grandma said—" "We're leaving now." They didn't understand. How could they? They were being told yes by people who had spent their lives saying no, and they liked it. It was easy to like. "Can we keep the toys?" one of them asked, clutching a stuffed bear as if it held the answers. I hesitated for just a second, then said yes, because taking the toys away would make me the villain, and I wasn't giving my parents that win. As we headed out, my mom called after me, her voice sing-song and soft. "They'll come back to us," she said. "They always do." She said it like a fact, like a promise, like she still thought she could win. That night, I didn't wait for some magical sign or emotional breakdown. I just sat on the bed, looked at my husband, and said, "We have to leave." He didn't ask why. He didn't need to. "I don't want them near the kids," I said. "Not at school, not at the grocery store, not down the block pretending to be harmless." He nodded slowly, as if he had already reached the same conclusion. "You mentioned North Carolina before," I said. "Your company has an office there. Your parents live there." "I wasn't ready then. I am now." He nodded again. "The transfer is still on the table." "Good," I said. "Let's take it." No drama, no hesitation, just the quiet decision to burn the bridge and never look back. I didn't need revenge. I needed distance and a clean start somewhere they couldn't reach us. A few months later, we were in North Carolina. The mountains were beautiful, and the air smelled like pine and new beginnings. The kids were in new schools. His parents, who were warm, grounded, and drama-free, lived 20 minutes away and genuinely wanted to help. We didn't tell anyone where we went. We blocked numbers and disappeared, not in a dramatic, storming off to find yourself kind of way, but in a we deserve peace kind of way. One day my phone rang from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Later I listened. It was a cousin I barely spoke to. "Hey," she said. Your mom says she doesn't know where you are. She's really upset. She said you just cut off contact. I don't know what's going on, but family matters. I deleted the message, didn't call back, and didn't explain. Because by then, the only thing that mattered was this: we were safe, we were free, we didn't disappear, we escaped. About 6 months later, in a new state with new schools and routines, I had almost gotten used to not checking my phone with dread. The quiet wasn't comfortable yet, but it was no longer terrifying, just still. Then I got an email from my sister. The subject line read, "Emergency, please read." I stared at it for a while. I thought about deleting it unread, about marking it as spam. Instead, I opened it. It was long, frantic, and poorly punctuated. The gist? Our parents had been arrested again. This time, not for being stupid, though that was part of it, but for actually doing the thing they almost got us arrested for. They tried to smuggle something across the border themselves. No middlemen, no family scapegoats, just a trunk full of product and two people in their 60s who still thought rules were suggestions. They were caught, obviously. The email ended with a plea. They need help. They need money for a lawyer. This is serious. You have to put the past aside and show up. Your family. I read that last line 3 times. Then I hit reply. All I wrote was, "And I did show up once. I'm not doing it again." I meant it. I didn't hear anything else for a while. I didn't need to. But eventually, word found its way back to me, as it always does. Cousins talk. Family trees have rot, but the roots are deep. They were charged with possession with intent to distribute and attempting to cross an international border with controlled substances. A few pounds, enough for intent, not enough for headlines. They took a plea deal, 4 years each. Not life-changing, but not nothing either. Enough time to sit with what they'd done, if they were even capable of that, which honestly, I doubt. The part of me that used to flinch when people mentioned second chances is quiet now. We have a life here. It's not perfect, but it's ours. The kids laugh more. My husband sleeps better, and I haven't had to translate guilt into silence in a very long time. As for the rest of it, I don't regret the boundary, not for a second. But you tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new here, hit subscribe.